Russia is such a vast country that today 11% of the world belongs to them. They have about twice as much land as Canada, which is second only to them in the ranking of the largest countries. For Russia, which owns 11% of the world, this territory has never been enough. They have always been in favor of expansion throughout their history. If we take a step back from the present, when the Soviet Union collapsed in 1991, 14 countries broke away from the Russian-led Union. After the unstable 90s, Russia started to recover under Putin in the 2000s and began to covet territories beyond its borders, especially in the former Soviet countries. In some of these countries, it either installed puppet governments loyal to it or threatened and sometimes waged war against countries it could not fully dominate. In Ukraine, for example, the conflict between pro-Western and pro-Russian forces has been going on for a long time. Despite Putin's best efforts, the pro-Western side grew stronger and stronger, and finally Russia launched an invasion operation in Ukraine. If we want an example of Putin's puppets, we should look at Belarus. Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko is Putin's most loyal ally. He follows every order from Moscow without question, and when necessary, defies the West before Putin. In these hot days in Ukraine, we are going to broaden the projection a bit. In this video, we will take a closer look at the 5 most strategic regions that Russia claims, and we will learn about Putin's next targets after Ukraine. Kuril Islands dispute. The Kuril Islands are a region of 56 islands in eastern Russia, off the island of Sakhalin, and between the Kamchatka Peninsula and Japan. It is one of the regions considered to be the homeland of the Japanese. The names of the islands are also of Japanese origin. In 1941, the Soviet Union, which did not want to enter the war at the beginning of World War II, signed a neutrality agreement with Japan. Just as the war was about to end, as we all know, the United States dropped atomic bombs on 2 Japanese cities, Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The Soviets took advantage of this event to break the neutrality agreement and declared war on Japan. After an absolute defeat, the Japanese surrendered completely. With this surrender, it was decided that Japan's main islands would be exploited by America, Taiwan by China, and the Sakhalin and Kuril Islands by Russia. Encouraged by Japan's exhausted state and this decision, the Soviet Union completely occupied the Kuril archipelago in 1949 and expelled Japanese citizens. After World War II, Japan became a technological giant. When they regained power, they claimed that the Kuril Islands belonged to them, and until today they have demanded their return at every opportunity. Today, there are frequent tensions between the Russians and the Japanese off the Kuril Islands. For example, Russian border guards occasionally fire harassing shots at Japanese fishermen who they believe are violating their territorial waters. Japan issues notes against Russia for arming the islands. Russia's military exercise on the islands in 2019 was also one of the most tense moments. There is also another situation. After World War II, no de facto peace treaty was signed between the Russians and the Japanese, meaning that the two countries are technically still at war. The Kuril Islands are the obstacle that prevented the signing until today. As long as the Soviet Union existed, it was never willing to give these islands to Japan. After the collapse of the Soviet Union, then Russian President Boris Yeltsin met with then Japanese Prime Minister Hashimoto in Siberia in 1997. The official records of this meeting mentioned the giving back of the Kuril Islands to Japan for the first time. However, this was not a return, but a sale. The previous year, in 1996, it was reported in the world press that Boris Yeltsin had asked Japan for $30 billion for the islands, and the claim was not officially denied. Afterwards, the Japanese complained that the asking price was too high. According to the allegations put forward by the Russian media and former Russian politicians, Boris Yeltsin received a guarantee from Vladimir Putin to sell the Kuril Islands to Japan by 2005. According to the same allegations, the Yeltsin family was to receive a commission after this sale was realized. Recently, a public opinion survey was conducted among the people living on the islands. After the expulsion of the Japanese by the Soviet Union in 1949, the majority of them had passed to the Russians. Today, Kuril residents, the majority of whom are Russians, favor Japanese sovereignty. Poor islanders say that nothing has gotten better in 60 years, and they do not believe that Russia will improve living standards on the islands. According to military experts, the Kuril region is one of the most critical areas for Russian submarines to reach the ocean. The loss of these islands could reduce the Russian Navy's mobility in the Pacific Ocean and create a security vulnerability for the country. Despite Japan's objections, the Russian Defense Ministry has announced that it will build new base areas on the islands to increase its military presence in 2021. Arctic region. Although melting glaciers after global warming worries humanity, this situation creates a new area of contention for countries. With climate change, the Arctic region in the north of the world has turned into a new area that can be used and processed. The resources it contains and the new sea routes that will be created on it whet the appetite of countries. For example, in 2008, the Americans conducted a study in the region. According to this research, they measured that there are about 90 billion barrels of undiscovered oil, about 42 trillion cubic meters of natural gas, and about 44 billion barrels of liquid natural gas. The Arctic region is expected to become one of the most important areas of global competition and one of the main centers of power confrontation in the near future. Russia, Canada, the United States of America, Norway, and Denmark via Greenland are the 5 countries bordering the Arctic. The legal boundaries in the region are not clearly defined, which is why tensions arise from time to time. Russia has been working in the Arctic for some time with nuclear-powered icebreakers to open new sea routes. After opening new sea routes, they expanded their claims on the Arctic Ocean. These new claims overlap with the territories claimed by Denmark and Canada. Russia has the longest border with the Arctic Ocean and the largest number of icebreakers in the region. They have been working for a long time to put their claims on a solid footing. They pay special attention to the Arctic, not only for economic interests, but also for the security of their territory. They are building numerous air bases and border outposts in the region. In response to these Russian moves, NATO regularly organizes exercises in the Arctic. The last of these exercises, the first of which was organized in 2006 under the leadership of Norway, escalated tensions in the region. However, the exercise, which was announced to be held during the pandemic, that is in March 2020, could not be held. The United States has been aware of the potential of the Arctic for 200 years. That is why they made offers to Denmark to acquire Greenland in 1867, 1910, 1946, and finally in 2019 under Donald Trump. Denmark rejected all offers with no openness to negotiations. Nevertheless, Greenland is home to the U.S. Thule Air Base. Thule Air Base is an important part of the U.S. missile defense system and is also home to nuclear missiles and strategic bombers. Antarctica. Russia, which covets the Arctic, would of course not be left behind for the South Pole. While they have a point in the Arctic because of their geographical location, they are also trying to expand their sphere of influence in Antarctica, which is thousands of kilometers away from their mainland and to which they have no natural ties. This is not new. They have been claiming it since the discovery of the continent in 1820. During the Soviet Union, Russia was one of the leading countries in scientific research in Antarctica. After the collapse of the Soviet Union, economically and politically shaken, they gradually cut their budget for the region and closed the 3 major research stations left by the Soviets. Antarctica is unlikely to become as attractive as the Arctic in the short term, but like the Arctic, there is thought to be vast natural wealth under the ice caps. The region is also critical for air attack and defense systems, which are becoming increasingly important. Russia has begun to increase investment in Antarctica again. They are currently focusing on scientific research and deploying satellite receivers. In the aftermath of the pandemic, all countries in the region have cut their budgets and downsized their research bases, while Russia and China have increased their operations in the opposite direction. Transnistria. Transnistria is a de facto socialist country between Moldova and Ukraine, not recognized by any member state of the United Nations. During the dissolution of the Soviet Union, although they were within the borders of Moldova, they were not included in Moldova and declared their unilateral independence. The independence movement of Transnistria was supported by Russia. After Moldova did not recognize this independence, a short war broke out between the two sides in 1992. The 14th Army sent by Russia as support caused great losses in the Moldovan army, and the Moldovans declared a ceasefire. Since then, Transnistria continues to exist as a socialist republic, although it is not officially recognized by anyone. Since its establishment, Transnistria has been supported politically and economically by Russia. Most of its people speak Russian, and almost all residents have Russian passports. The Russian presence here worries NATO. NATO commanders believe that if Russia succeeds in Ukraine, it will turn its attention to Moldova via Transnistria. Moldovan politicians are also seeking Western support to guarantee the security of their country. Venus. Sometimes places on Earth are not enough for Russia, and they also claim space. The place they claim in space is the planet Venus. They say Venus is a Russian planet. The person behind the claim is Dmitry Rogozin, the head of Roscosmos, the Russian state-owned space agency. The official website of Roscosmos states that the Soviet Union was the leading country in the study of Venus between 1967 and 1984. It also says that since then, Russia has unique expertise in designing spacecraft for Venus, which continue to complete scientific missions. Dmitry Rogozin also said that Venus missions are included in the government program for 2021 to 2030. Rogozin's remarks came a day after scientists announced the detection of highly toxic phosphine gas in Venus's atmosphere. What do you think? What could be Russia's next target after Ukraine? Please leave your comments below. If you liked the video, don't forget to press the like button and subscribe to the channel.